the politics of our country, because gradually it became apparent to us that indeed, like they say, politics is so serious a business to be left on the politicians. Over time, when General Museveni took over our country, many of the intellectuals that we believed in to deliver us kept disappointing. Many got killed, many got exiled, many got silenced, and indeed many got compromised. And so it was out of desperation that I got myself into politics. It's a long story that I might not be able to delve into right now, but it was the lack of alternative voices, and I thought that myself and many others had to descend into the arena. I was a musician and I was enjoying my music, but over time I realized that just like many young people then, similar to now, we had followers, but where were we leading them to? I was an artist and was paid a lot of money by telecom companies to endorse their products. I was paid by beer companies because the beer bottle that I held inspired so many young people to go that way. Because I was a trendy young man that so many young men and women looked up to. And I realized that maybe if I take a dive into the matters that actually matter to our people, I would lead a generation into that direction. I want to believe that we have largely done that, but so much needs to be done. So with that, here I am. I ran for MP in 2017. I won with 80% of the vote when I was competing with the ruling party candidate and the main opposition candidate. 2 years later, when I was in Parliament, I realized that indeed Parliament was just a rubber stamp, because having changed the constitution to remove term limits, this time when I was just a few months in Parliament, General Museveni introduced a bill to change the constitution once again, to remove the age limit, to allow him to rule forever. And I led my fellow MPs to resist that. When he used the military to forcefully change the constitution, because I knew that politics was a game of the popular, and I knew that young people, who are the majority, 85% of our population, I ran against him, defeated him for the presidency in 2021, as it is chronicled and captured very well in a documentary about myself and my family called Bobi, the People's President. Of course, it was rigged again. I was to challenge him again in the election that happened on January 15th, which election we had under complete blackout of the internet, an election that was completely taken over by the military. And after that election, placed under house arrest, raided in my home, my wife beaten, stripped naked and filmed and all that. The head of the military, who is General Museveni's son, ordered for my testicles. The long story cut short, I ended up running out of the country, and here I am. Not defeated, not silenced, still growing strong and preparing to go back home. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, a lot of the stories and the highlight of which that Mr. Chakulani gives us here will soon come out in my book on music and politics in Uganda. I don't want to spill the beans by telling you the title of the book. I don't know if that would be an issue, but it basically chronicles Bobi Wine's artistry, but also entails with the question of how which is a very controversial one though, because I've had several interviews with him in Uganda, and he still thinks of himself, even initially, as not being a politician. And yet, the kind of activities he's, been engaged with could actually be perceived as political. But anyway, there's that monograph that is coming out as a result of so many years of studying Bobi Wine's music, inside out, as a musician, and then looking at how that, study may even, counter-argue the idea that, oh yeah, Bobi Wine's political career only started in 2017. But hey, hello, how about those very many songs that have actually spoken and to the injustices many years before 2017. So it engages with all those kind of aspects. And now coming back, it is interesting that you always refer to yourself as not a politician. But we just recently, had this election where you excited so many young men and women, some of whom now ask themselves, our guy is not here. What are we going to do? So some of them feel like they're a lost sheep. Do you think that they should feel that way? Do you think there is a space now that you are gone for a while, even though you've already announced in your other fireplace conversations that you're actually on your way back to Uganda? What message do you have for those young men and women who have actually garnered this great support behind you and seen you as a visionary?
Thank you, Professor. It has always been my desire to light a fire, not just in me, but among many people, especially the young people of our country, of our region, and of our continent, and hopefully of our beautiful world where we live today. It is not just about me. I do not show up as the most qualified, as the most educated. As you are aware, the first time I ran for president, I didn't even have a university degree. So it was an effort to challenge the people, especially the young people, to fold their sleeves and get to do the work that they had to do. It is my satisfaction that very many young people got involved in the politics. The educated and qualified, young doctors, young lawyers, young engineers, but most importantly, the common people owned up the politics. The barbers, the market vendors, the taxi drivers, that was the desire. While I am leading the church, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about all of us, because it has always been the effort of the dictators to strike the shepherd and to scatter the sheep. So I don't want it to be about me. My message to all these people has always been that every one of you can be a Bobi Wine. Indeed, every one of you should be a Bobi Wine. This time around, when I ran for president, I discouraged the nation from using my picture. Yes, my face was already known, my name was already known, but I told them to carry the national flag, to own the nation. Each one of them put it in their house, put it in on their vehicle, put it in their living room. No wonder now the Uganda national flag has been criminalized by the regime. Many people are in prison for being found waving the Ugandan flag because it is a sign of protest against misrule. So I believe that they've had that. Of course, I know that I am dearly missed, just like I am dearly missing home. But maybe, just like they say there's always a silver lining on every cloud, maybe this should communicate to us and should challenge other Ugandans to imagine a time of my absence. At least I'm still alive. At least we live in a generation where they are now watching me on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, and all these other places. But I'm telling them that the most important thing is to remove this idolization or this individualization of the struggle. While I play role, everybody else.
When President Museveni took over power in 1986, he actually came in with the story of instilling a sense of democracy in the country which he seems to have actually kind of embarked on, a little bit in the earlier 1990s before he lost track of that kind of ideology. Do you see yourself as, trying actually to revitalize that ideology rather than presenting a new ideology altogether?
You're very right. I'm not presenting anything new. You can't reinvent the wheel. This that I'm saying, General Museveni was saying at my age, only more eloquent. He was a prized revolutionary, just like many others, just like the Sankaras, the Robert Mugabes of this world. I mean, I was named after Robert Mugabe. Can you believe that?
Yes.
Because
yes.
he was a prized revolutionary. My family used to be this bourgeoisie family just after colonialism, but it joined General Museveni, and my grandfather passed away in that war, and my father was sentenced to death. Thanks to the corruption of that regime, my mother bought him out of jail, and he was able to escape because she paid some of the people that were working in that regime, just like I was able to escape out of Uganda, thanks to those that don't agree with what was going on. So, when General Museveni was persuading our parents to join him in the Bush War, which consumed 500,000 of our people for him to get in power, he presented a 10-point program which included the return of democracy, the end of abuse of human rights, the end to corruption, and all the good things that he presented. And indeed, we must give it to him that in his first 5, maybe 10 years, he lived to that promise. When he came to power, his famous statement, which he even wrote in his book, What is Africa's Problem, was Africa's problem in general, and Uganda in particular, are the leaders that overstay in power. He said that when he was my age. He would kill anybody who reminds him of what he said when he was my age. So, while he stood for the right things, he is the perfect example of the famous saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. He has been in power for 40 years, but he believes that he is the only one that can solve the problems, majority of the problems his overstay has created. So that speaks to us a great deal. And it speaks to me personally. And I always tell people that don't look at me as your savior, because I'm a human being who can be corrupted. And that is why I believe in encouraging people to come together so we can liberate ourselves. It is not me to liberate you, neither are you the one to liberate me. We have to liberate ourselves together so we can hold each other accountable. And indeed, for us to achieve that, we're not going to get it when we get there. We're going to practice it now. We are going to institutionalize and empower our institutions so that it is not an individual that charters the way. Now, I'm out of the country, but the institution, the political party that I lead, the National Unity Platform, has my fellow leaders with whom we sit and agree many of my ideas about, and many of my ideas are challenged out, just like the ideas of others. That is what we believe in, because that is how nations are built.
Actually, this very last point, now, I mean, that very point brings me to the next question. You know, it is so interesting that when you stood up, in 2017 to become the next member of parliament for the Chadondo East constituency, you were despised.
Oh yeah.
And the idea was like, this is, some kind of a joke. He's just an Afro-pop musician. He's an entertainer, blah, 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 blah. What is it in you, though, that is so peculiar in you yourself, as in your persona? Because we have many other Afro-pop musicians in Uganda, the so-called Mainjas, Chameleons, Baby Cool, and many others. Why? And some of them have even tried political office. But what is it that in you that I also still want to understand, and even where possible incorporate in my forthcoming book, that is able to animate this sense of energy to move not just even the young men and the women, because I've been to Uganda and I've seen this with my eyes, but even, you know, the older generation and even the, you know, the educated scholars. What is it that you do that defines what I want to call actually as an art of politics in you? I mean, well, why not any other musician? Why you?
Well, Professor, honestly, there's nothing special about me. No, there isn't. This that I'm doing, anybody can do. All you need to have is the decency to know that you're not special. And to know that you are because we are, and we are because you are. In Africa, we call it Ubuntu. Just like as an artist, I rose not because I had the most beautiful voice, no, but simply because what I was talking about in my songs is the common plight of the people and the thousands and later on millions that followed me and supported me were only and simply seeing themselves speak through my voice. That is when they throng my concerts, when they come, and before you know, 1, 2, 3, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, millions are associated with you. Anybody and everybody can do this. All they have to do is to think, especially in the context of artists, all they have to do is to think beyond Friday night. As simple as that. And indeed, to look into history, to learn from history. We have had great people that lived. I idolize Bob Marley. Bob Marley was a great artist. He spoke about all these things. The only thing that he needed to do is to speak about them on a more formal platform. I'd been singing about these injustices and all that, and maybe I've just been reminded that sometimes something needs to happen to you. I was like all these other artists, Professor, until I was 35. I mean, I became a star at a very early age of 21, you know, and I was singing about the girls and the drinks and the rides and everything. And indeed, by 23, 25, I was one of the most popular, if not the most popular and successful artists in our country. But there's this one day, I had just bought a brand new Cadillac Escalade with 24-inch spinning wheels, the first of its kind in East Africa. And I was coming from a famous nightclub called Angenois Discotheque. When this young man of my age walked up to me, I mean, I used to, back then when I was younger, I was full of life. I used to move in waves, you know. So this particular night, I'm walking from the club and entering my car, and as you can expect, all the cars were looking at me, and I was feeling myself. I was the guy of the moment. So this young man, around my age, walks to me, knocks on my car. When I put the glass down, the window down, he slapped the hell out of me. So I got out to teach him a lesson. Then he pulled up a gun and put it on my face. And I mean, no matter how strong you are, you're not going to fight a guy with a gun. Smacked me again. And then I asked him, why are you beating me? What have I done to you? Asked me, why are you showing off? Don't you know this country has owners? Now, from his accent, he was coming from the ruling tribe, and he was a security operative, and was clearly above the law. So people surrounded to see who is this beating our celebrity. You can imagine, for example, now somebody slapping a Justin Bieber or Snoop Dogg or something. That is the kind of artist that I was. Even the security of the club came and pleaded with him instead. Said, Afande means the high-ranking officer. Said, Afande, forgive him. He didn't know there are bosses around here. So he ordered me, get into your stupid car and get out of here. I had nothing to do. I got into my car with my friend Nubian and we drove. We didn't talk or look at each other. But as I was driving back home, so many thoughts came to me. The injustice and all that. But again, it was not the first time I was seeing this, only that it was happening to me. It had been happening to other people. In the same club I was there, and these military officers would come, and sometimes there were nights where university students were there, would come and pick somebody's girlfriend, force and take her to the car, do all manner of things. These things had been happening. But because I was a star, and I had this proximity to power, I had the illusion that it couldn't happen to me. Well, it was happening to me. That rang a bell in me because something told me you deserve it. It has been happening to other people, you didn't say what. So this triggered something in my mind, and I started singing about, talking about them, and thinking in a totally different line. But it took a whole 10 years until a time came and I decided that I'm not just going to talk about these injustices, but I am going to go to a formal platform where I can actually speak about them, maybe influence policies that can protect our people. So experiences that we go through many times open our eyes. Maybe some of my fellow artists are still living in the illusion that they are safe until they get the rude awakening. I hope they don't get it at a time when they can't do nothing about it. Yeah.
Right. Recently, you graduated out of law school also.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And now you are a lawyer. Do you see any separation of powers in Uganda at the moment? And if not,